There you go, that's the promo videos. Daystate have launched the Alpha Wolf. But what if you just bought a Delta? Well, there could be some news. What do we think of that? Not bad. Here are the details for the Alpha Wolf Performance Pack. £600, but a massive 50% discount off for Delta Wolf owners. Okay, so let's have a little look what's actually in the box. Okay, obviously we've got some packaging. Just want to talk about this, the DTD, data transfer device. This is the little thing that's been called a dongle or a programming pen, but it's actually for transferring data, so it's a data transfer device. And that's what plugs into it. That's being bundled in with all the upgrade stocks. So let's dump the package in. Two bubble back rolls. Got a Picatinny rail. This is feels like aluminium, nicely centred, feels really strong, little bubble level in the end, a little bit in the style of the Pulsar, but a nice piece of kit. It's very solid, that. Okay, next things we've got a long bolt with a 5mm Allen socket. That's your stock bolt, one of your stock bolts. There are two more small stock bolts, and these are your safety spacers and extra long screws. So they're going to replace the ones that are already on your Delta. And we have a cheek riser. I'm not sure, I'm going to have a look, see whether these are different to the ones you've already got on your Delta Wolf. Maybe a little bit higher, but we'll have a look at that, we'll compare them later. So the final piece of the package is going to be the stock update. So there we go, that's it. It's a red laminate piece, Picatinny rail on the underside, pre-fitted, and this is going to go in between your electronic part and will fit underneath the buddy bottle of the rifle. So there we have a couple of things to note. There's a little block of wood in here, that's just a spacer to stop it getting squished in transit, and it's a good time to show you. There's a little tiny hole in there, that's actually going to be where the spring goes, but we'll show you that later on, but just want to make sure people are aware of that early on. That's an important little hole. So anyway, that's it, that's your kit. Data transfer device, updated scope rail, stock bolt, and safety screws and spacers, and the cheek riser. So that's basically over that end like that, top of the rifle. These two are going to fit over here, and there for the safety. And that's going to be your stock bolt going up through there, and your data transfer device. So that's your kit. I'll put a picture in and label up all the parts so that you know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm talking about. Then we should all have the right idea. This is my Delta as she sits. It's in 177 at the moment. I do have the other caliber 2.2, but I haven't really changed that over yet. Had to play with it. Two things have been going on, I haven't been able to. The purpose of this is to show you the rifle as it sits. and show you what we need to take off before we start actually trying to do the conversion to the Alpha Wolf. But first, obviously this is going to come off, so the bipod just unscrews. The plate underneath, I'm going to call it the trigger guard, I'm not really sure what it is, it's part of the trigger guard, and also the forward Picatinny rail. So that needs to come off. The grip needs to come off. There is a small spring in there that we need to retain and use again. That's important because obviously it is functional and we need to make sure that we don't lose that. So that's that. On the top we're going to remove the scope rail, which is sliding anyway, and the cheek piece. So that's it for the top. So if I find any more tools, I'll let you know. There'll be a list of the tools and sizes for the Allen keys, just so you can make sure you've got everything before you start. But that's about it. Don't have to do much of that. That's just a cheap Chinese copy that I had at hand at the time, but it seems to have worked just fine for what I need to do. Mostly I don't shoot off it, I tend to just use it as a stand for the rifle when I'm doing things. So first thing I'm going to do is strip the top off so we're not bashing the scope about. And you need to loosen those off and back them off a little bit, just so that that'll slide, that comes off. So yeah, already I can see that there is a difference between this one and the new one in the conversion kit that has got a riser piece in it. The next bit I'm going to remove is the scope rail. I am working a little bit to one side because of the camera, so you can see what we're doing. Just undo. Just need to be slackened off. Okay, so that should slide forwards, yeah. Well. So that's the scope removed. Okay, so that's the top of the gun sorted. Just need to come down to the bottom now, which is just 4 screws underneath. Just slacken them all off to start with, and then they can be wound right out and put to one side. Okay. Your dust cover you're not going to need either, that's not going to fit back on, I don't think. So that's your trigger guard sorted out. So I've changed position a little bit and put the gun in a stand. The reason being is once we get these replaced with the extensions, it's very important that you don't push them through. There's a micro switch in the trigger that can be damaged, and that means a trip back to the factory, unfortunately. So it's really important that you don't move the drum on the inside. So keep the rifle steady, prevent it from falling over at this stage. Once the stock's back on, it's then not a problem. And there's a distinct order to this. We need to do the safety switches and then remove the trigger grip. I've also removed the battery because we've got the trigger exposed. It just seemed easier than any accidental fire-ins. So what we've got to do is we've got to undo these 2mm screws here on either side and remove the levers. You may find your levers are different sizes. This is so that they're handed for left and right hand shooters. So 2mm, we just hold it steady. I'm going to crack both sides off. And then unscrew them completely. Not putting any pressure on the drum because we don't want to push that through. So it's only a short screw, that can come off. We're going to want the lever, so keep that on this side. You can put your finger over the drum as well, just so you don't push through. Okay, so we take one small spacer. These are quite small. I'll try and hold it up a little bit so you can see it. You can see that they're keyed, and that means all you have to do is match up the keying again on the unit itself. So assemble it all like that in your fingers so you've got everything set up right, ready to go. Still 2mm. Just a little bit fiddly to get it lined up, but you can just start the thread and then get everything keyed in. Just finger tight to start with. Same thing on the back. We're going to use lever, spacer, and an extra long screw. So that just goes on the back there. Okay, so that's the back one. That's tightened up firm as well. Then we can just tighten this side. Okay. There is a little spacer in the stock there. That's got to be removed anyway before it's fitted. And you can, if you want to, just pop that behind there if it fits right, and you can hold on pressure. Just a little thing I found when I was doing it. The next thing to remove is the pistol grip. That's got a little clip cover over the end of it that you can use for storage. 2p coin, and you can just press that in and it should just pop up. Inside here you'll be able to see the grip bolt. It's 5mm, Allen key again. I'll insert a picture so you can see what you're doing, but it's very easy. There's only one screw in there. Unscrews very easily. There's nothing to this one. It's not a very long screw. Just as it's coming apart, you'll be able to see a small spring in here. You need to be careful that doesn't ping off like springs usually do. We are going to need to reuse that. So just carefully feel for the thread coming off on the grip bolt, and keep an eye on the screw at spring. Just pinch it with your finger as it comes loose. And then you've got it. You can withdraw the bolt then. So take that spring out, put it somewhere safe to one side. The Delta is now ready to receive the new stock, so we should be able to just push that on now. Inside the stock there's a little hole just here. This is where the spring we kept earlier is going to go. I've got here a little pot of petroleum grease or jelly. Just going to get a little blob on the end of the spring, and that should help it stick inside the stock and won't fall out. So we're ready to seat the stock now. That just inverts. I've had to loosen the straps on the front, so just be careful. Again, just taking care of the safeties, not to push them left or right. You can feel a little bit of spring tension there from that small spring we've just fitted. Take the large stock bolt, goes down through the bottom of the pistol grip. You can just feel it start. And then wind it in carefully. You just want firm pressure on it, not too much. It's just a laminate stock, you're not holding the whole rifle together. 2 more stock bolts then. Again, I'm just feeling the thread, starting it off. These are a 3mm. Pushing down a little bit on the stock just to make it seated. Again, firm pressure, not too tight. What you don't want to do is damage the laminate or the finish by over tightening these. So they're just holding the stock in place. So a couple of fingers pressures. These T-bars are excellent for that because you can get a really good feel of how much pressure you're putting on. Before we go any further, worth just checking everything operates. Make sure nothing has changed. Yeah, that's all working just fine. The conversion's a long way through now. I've taken off all the small bits that I'm going to. Everything's going back together. What I've done, using one of the little packets that came with the conversion kit, I've kept all the old bits. And just for safety, so I keep everything together. I'm going to pop them in the storage area in the old grip. And I'm going to put that safe with the other parts that I've taken off. I've fitted my bipod just to use as a standoff camera. That's not part of the conversion kit, but obviously it just assists me while I'm filming. So I put my Picatinny converter and my Q-stud bipod on the bottom there. Works just fine. It's nice to have the Picatinny nice and forward, much more forward than the deltawolf, unless you've bought the PRS rail, which obviously isn't going to work with this. So we've got the safeties in place. That's still working. Everything's as it should be on the rifle. There's only 2 more pieces to fit now, and that's the riser for the scope and the mount, which is just going to slide on the back. I may have to undo the mount. So just make sure these are slackened off. So that just mounts on, slides up, and once it's in place, move forward. I think that's roughly where I'm going to need it, so I'm just going to pinch it up there for now. But I'm just going to do it just over finger tight to start with, because almost certainly I'll want to adjust it depending on what scope I put on. So that's the round mounted, and then just the riser. So we've got the cheek piece here. This is ambidextrous, so it'll go on left or right handed depending on which side you're shooting from. I shoot mounted on the right, so I'm going to fit it this way round. This is a little riser piece underneath. Just going to undo the grub screws and just slide that off. The reason being is it's quite tricky to see what you're doing with this one, so it's easier to just drop it on, slide it back, and then you can then slide the cheek piece over the top. So, took the wrong one. I'm just going to undo the front one so I can see when the hole's lined up. It's not absolutely necessary to remove it from the top. If you can get it to slide up the rail, I just found it was a little bit tricky, and it just made it easier to do in two parts. So my cheek mount wants to be about there. Do for a starting position anyway. That's it, and they're done up, just firm, nothing needs to be over tight. So that is your conversion. All that needs now is a scope. Here we've got it all set up with an NTC optics, and it's a 12x50 SWAT. You can see some extra stuff on there. That's just my night vision stand from NV UK. Looks really great, but don't forget this is an adjustable rifle. You've still got all your old bits. You can either convert it back depending on what you're doing, or you can actually just chop and change things. You still have the other scope rail, that'll fit on there perfectly well, so you've got a choice of scopes. So that's an option still, and this comes with the riser for the cheek piece. You can just hear the rifle switching itself off, but don't forget you've still got your original one, or this one. You can actually just take the riser out, so if you do prefer it a little bit lower, will still work. This is just to clear the magazine fully, but I like mine further back anyway, so that's where that is. Just thought I'd do you a quick shot of what it looks like with a full size scope on it. That's the original rail off the DeltaWolf. Obviously you can chop and change them, but actually I think changing the scope over on the sliding mount is a nice easy way to do it. So if you have a different scope for different shooting, that's a great feature.